there is a danger to even really talking about this seriously in a Thelemic context, because we are essentially a fringe religious group. It's a very small kind of thing. And we are living in a era of a sort of post-Catholic child abuse type situation, where people are looking at any religious organization being involved with the raising of children becomes inherently problematic, because people are very suspicious of this, and rightly so. This definitely means that anyone involved in this type of community, if it was to take the idea of educating children seriously, would have to be very carefully screened, very carefully looked at, their background and who they are and what's going on, and very critically looked at. And that's a very big problem, because I think that because it is a small group, it's very eager to attract new members and attract new people. And that I sometimes think that people are therefore unwilling to look critically at people who become interested, because it's just so nice to have someone who's interested, who wants to become involved, that then they don't want to sort of ask too many questions about them, because that might turn them away or whatever. But the reality is, like Crowley's saying about like teaching the kid to read, you kind of have to push people away. And the people who keep coming back are the people who really want to be here. If you're trying to suck people in, that's no good. And because promulgating the law is supposed to be part of the essential will of every Thelemite, I think that's a very important thing to think about. And I think that really the promulgation efforts that I've seen have been mostly trying to sex up Thelema, to make it attractive to people, to emphasize the parts that they know everyone is going to like, and de-emphasize the parts that people aren't, when I think that's totally the opposite approach that should be taken. So if you want to really get people who are real Thelemites and really going to be into Thelema, you have to emphasize the parts that you know are going to disturb them, that you know are going to upset them, that you know they're not going to like. And if you don't emphasize those parts first, then they're going to find them later, and then they're going to freak out. And that's why I think we have like a revolving door system in the Thelemic community, where people get really into things in the beginning, they get really excited about things in the beginning, and then all of a sudden they come across something, chapter 3 stuff, or, which, you'd be shocked that people don't come across first, but, whatever. All of a sudden, what do you mean, I will give you of their flesh to eat? Where are we going with this exactly? And, when people start asking those kind of questions after they've been involved for a while, it sort of turns them off. But the reality is, if you want a strong community of people who are highly invested in Thelema, you've got to give them the stuff that they're not going to like first. Just like educating children, you have to try to turn them off as much as you can. And the people who you can't turn off, they're the people who you really want to get into it. I think that the big deal here becomes, how does he put it? Crowley writes a letter to Henry Ford, where he's trying to sort of bring Henry Ford into Thelema. And in a way, I almost feel like he goes against his own grain here, where he tries to make it, not only make it attractive, but he tries to flatter Ford very much in terms of what his sort of ideas are. I was talking to you about this earlier, but he's saying, it was your will to help people move from place to place and to make this great development. Where I really think that Henry Ford's will was to make money, and that was kind of his primary motivation. And, it was mostly probably Ford's money that Crowley was after, and good on him for trying that. I mean, it would be better for us to recruit Thelemites who actually have resources than recruit Thelemites who are, poor students, can't really contribute very much. But there's one point where he says specifically, save us from the desires that aren't ours. We are being told what to want, what to want, what to want. And it confuses people. They get confused about what they want. It makes it very difficult to know yourself, especially if you're being told what to want from such a young age, that before you really develop your critical thinking skills, before you really develop your ability to argue and to communicate on that level. And that's one of the big things that he says to do with kids, is to always show the dialectic. If they fix on one point, take the other point, and to show them, there's not just that there's two sides to everything, but that they can argue. And he says, sharpen this capacity of theirs from a very quick standpoint. And we can extrapolate that to promulgating the law as well. Because if we get someone who's new to Thelema and they're really into it, and I think the tendency is in the Thelemic community to, agree bobblehead, agree with what they're saying. Oh yes, great, you like that, right, that's really good. When in reality, what we should be doing is presenting a counterpoint, arguing with them, and shooting down their ideas, and seeing what they come back with. That's how growth happens. I think that conflict develops strength, and unity divides strength. If you, the more you try to seek for unity, especially ideological unity, the more you lose the power of something, because you have everyone who's got kind of a half-assed idea of one thing trying to like pull themselves together, and that doesn't help anybody. There's a reason that the Book of the Law says, "As brothers fight." You know, I have a brother. You should see us at family gatherings. Like usually they have to tell us to shut up because we'll be arguing about like everything basically. But I mean, it's great. It's a great argument. It's a great natured argument. I would rather have a good argument than two people. It turns on into like a CBC talk show. This is why I hate CBC. Oh, that's a wonderful thought. Thanks. That's a great idea. Oh, I think your ideas are great too. That's not an interesting conversation. Who the fuck wants to listen to that? Like seriously. You need to have people fighting, as I've heard someone say recently, if you don't hear people fighting about something, they don't really care about it. If people are really deeply invested in Thelema, you get two people who are deeply invested about it and they have different ideas about it, they should be fighting about it. They're going to have different ideas. There's no way that they're going to agree on everything. And I think that it's the things that we don't agree on that we should be focusing on. But just like I said before, because it is a small community, people get worried about that. They don't want to start these personal conflicts. They don't want to have these sort of a combative idea because they're worried about turning people away. I mean, I always find this funny if I get in an argument, particularly if I get in an argument online, it'll be like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, then someone always pipes up, "Why do we have to be fighting?" It's like, well, we have to be fighting because we give a shit. And that's the person who I care the least about, is the "why do we have to be fighting" person. Because there's some people who just can't handle the fact that people are disagreeing with each other, people are having conflict. And that is, that's inherently problematic. Because without this, as I said, you can't have growth. What's that?
When do you finally achieve some sort of unity, being a small group as it is?
I don't think there is an end point.
There's
I
no
think
such
it's a...
thing.
Well,
There is no such thing.
if I could speak from personal experience, even a couple of different things. Number one, you said that discourse is something that should be utilized and grown, not discouraged. A lot of the time, I'll take an opposite view of someone else in a conversation, not even because I necessarily agree with what I'm saying, just to take the opposite view,
Yeah.
to see how.
Well, that's
And it's
devil's
the fun.
advocate.
It's the fun of the conversation, right?
Right,
We've had
absolutely.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like two people can sit and fight. Like me and Darren are really good friends, and we'll sit and he'll tell me, I'll say something, he'll tell me you're full of fucking shit. But you know what? I still love him at the end of the day because he's
Right.
still a great friend of mine, right? Like there is unity even though we're fighting about things.
Yeah. If you can't tell someone that they're full of shit when you think they're full of shit, then
Yeah.
what kind of relationship is that? Really?
I don't
Exactly. You
mean,
should be
I
able to
don't
tell
mean
them.
like, don't
Exactly.
kiss and hug at the end of the day, and I certainly want to see that between you. I paid
The kissing
I
and
don't know,
hugging or
anyway,
But
you
want to.
with regards to being a small group, and believe me, you know, right in there, just being a Wiccan is I guess we're a bit of a larger community than
Oh, yes, certainly.
Thelemites. However, we're still a minority, and so we're dealing with that too. You have to achieve some sort of, if not conformity, which you certainly should try and stay away from, but some sort of unity on an agreed
They're definitely
I think that's-
process or path
Well, I
to
think
go
that's a
on.
great, that's a great,
Yeah, exactly.
okay, here's what I'm going to say about this, and this is a great point to make. So where does that come from? And I think that comes from unity of purpose. You know, you can, and it all depends what you're trying to do. I personally find this a lot at my job. Like I've worked with a lot of different people in different times, and there's only one concern that I have when I'm at my job is, can you do the job?
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of people, it's like, oh, you're a really nice guy, but you suck at this shit.
Yeah.
So I don't care that I like you, it doesn't matter. When you have a purpose, when you have an end point and a goal,
Yeah.
then these kind of conflicts, they don't matter. It's like you might even you might actively despise the person you're working with, but if you're both working towards the same goal, you will work together and you'll be motivated to work together. And that's actually Crowley's solution to conflicts between human beings is goals, endpoint, have something that you're working towards. And if you have this shared idea